What's up, summoners, and welcome back to another ProGuides video. Today we're going to talk about 7 tips to help you survive ganks. A lot of players struggle with this, especially in lower elo, so today we're going to give you some advice that our analysts have compiled on this topic. Avoiding ganks is one of the more subtle ways to carry games, as it will alleviate a lot of pressure for the rest of your teammates. As always, make sure to leave any feedback or suggestions in the comments down below. And for today's question of the day, which champion seems to kill you every time they gank you? Well, for me, anytime I get ganked by a Malzahar, it honestly feels like I don't even get to play the game, and then my screen just turns gray, oddly enough. So let us know. And speaking of getting ganked, are you getting ganked in your own lane? Constantly demolished? Well, don't worry, we've got you covered. ProGuides is the #1 proven way to quickly level up your League of Legends skills. Whether you are looking for tier lists, champion guides, coaching, or courses from your favorite pro players, ProGuides is where you'll find them. Even players like Nightblue, Bunny Fufu, and Loco Doco support ProGuides, so what are you waiting for? Click the link to start improving right now, and let's jump into the video. Number 1, our first tip for you guys, and oftentimes the most important, is to read your opponent's movements. If they've been passively playing for the entire laning phase and then all of a sudden decide to go ham, that should probably tell you something. Something pretty bad. Either they've found the courage that they've always needed, and self-confidence isn't too bad actually, or they've got a buddy nearby trying to gank you and kill you. That one is usually what's happening. If your opponent has the intent to trade, think about why. There's a lot of different terminology that people put out there, one common one being trading stance, where it's essentially being in a position where you're ready to trade damage back with your opponent. Whether or not portraying it in this way really helps you, all you need to do is constantly think about whether your opponent is going to play this way, and if it's the way that they want to go. If they've been playing in your face the entire game, taking every possible trade, but then suddenly decide to back off and play scared. Why is that? Are they baiting you? Are they scared of you all of a sudden? Or maybe they're afraid of your jungler. When they've been too afraid to even touch the wave the entire game, but all of a sudden they're running down your lane, that kind of stuff really starts to smell fishy. Without any wards or any vision, this is going to be the biggest giveaway that you're going to get in most situations. While it is possible that they could just be mind gaming you, this is highly unlikely until higher elos. And even then, you just don't see this often because mind gaming you can be risky, because of course, it's just at the end of the day, bluffing. You should obviously also utilize any information that you can get. If you just saw the jungler top lane 20 seconds ago and all of a sudden the support starts walking up, you either know that they are playing aggressively to bluff or because they genuinely want a 2v2 and not just look for a gank. Second, this one might amaze some of you out there, but it might make you roll your eyes at the same time because it seems so simple. You do not always have to trade with your opponent. It is okay to go farm exclusively and just try to avoid trading, especially if the wave is pushing into you. Being low is the biggest signal arrow to anyone to say, hey, come gank me. If you're sticking around in the lane at half health, you've basically got an arrow sign pointing to your head with the words, get in here and kill me. There are times where trading is a great option. Maybe you're stronger than your opponent and there's a perfect window of opportunity. At other times, however, the cost might outweigh the benefits. Trading means that you're committing, perhaps only a little bit, to some sort of fight. This is the best case scenario for any enemy player trying to gank you or even counter gank, especially as the trades get drawn out longer and longer, even possibly turning fights into the death. It really means the possibility that you're getting ganked will increase more and more. A lot of this can also come down to understanding some jungle pathing and especially tracking along with your own jungler's position. Just because the enemy jungler is on your side of the map doesn't mean that it's automatically a bad idea to trade. Because if your jungler is nearby and you're still pretty healthy, there are going to be a lot of situations where they can come assist you and even out the numbers. However, your jungler cannot always babysit your lane and stay on your side of the map 24/7. This season has especially solidified that with the increased dependence on farming camps. They'll eventually have to shift to the opposite side of the map or at least hit the edges of the jungle with those Gromp and Krugs once in a while. At some point, your jungler will not be in a position to help you, so you're going to, like in real life, eventually learn to be independent and learn to say, hey, my jungler isn't here. Don't get baited into taking stupid trades unless you're planning to recall immediately afterwards or at least push in the wave the entire way and then maybe go get a fruit in the river. Even if you quote-unquote win a trade, this might actually be a loss at times because you'll be an easier gank target by the end of it. Eventually, losing enough trades means that you'll also get dove under turret. Of course, the most common solution that players generally give out to their friends who complain about getting ganked a lot is to use their wards. If you're not already, then just, you know what, please do it. At this point, please just do it. There's really no excuse for you to just not do anything with your wards, especially the trinkets, because you get them for free. Go ahead and call me a boomer for saying this, but you all newer players, you really need to know that you don't understand how privileged you are, because back in my day, we had to pay for every single ward we wanted. Control wards are the wards that we can buy now, but they're still extremely valuable. Would you rather die, feed a kill, and then give up a ton of XP and even give up a lot of your gold because the minions are being pushed in, or instead spend 75 gold to avoid being ganked and then help out your team? If you're crushing your lane, you can even play more aggressive as long as you have a good control ward, allowing it to act like one of your trinket wards as well and be that safety net that you need. If you want to take it one step further than simply warding in the brush right next to you, you can go for a deeper ward into the river or the enemy jungle. It's simple logic. If you see something coming earlier, then you have to have more time to react to it. If you deep ward an enemy jungle camp, the enemy tri-bush, or even deeper wards into the river, it allows you to see the jungler coming 10, 20, or even 30 seconds before. If you go and ward the enemy red buff, and you see the enemy jungler doing it, you not only help yourself, and you're probably not going to die to a gank, but you inform your entire team where the jungler is. The next piece of advice we can give you is strictly targeted at avoiding the ganks themselves. If you're afraid of learning anything about jungle, or you've never learned about jungle, now is the time to do so, because you have to be able to learn jungle pathing, at least to a surface level. To some extent, jungle clears tend to be more linear, as it's the most efficient way for junglers to full clear their jungle. Starting on one side, they either clear upwards or downwards, making sure to clear every, if not most, of the camps on their route. You can also take a look at your own jungler, as they can help you track the clear as well. Take note of how many camps your jungler has cleared, and if your opponent has probably cleared the same number, you might be right by making that guess. A simple thing you can do to determine where a jungler is just to see which laners come to lane first and which ones that look like they leashed. While it is possible that the enemy jungler has asked their teammates to fake leash and everyone's doing their part to deceive you, honestly this doesn't happen often, and truth be told, that's kind of a low elo bait and a low elo trap. If you pay attention, most high elo players and high elo bot lanes would rather just push the wave and be there first. Fake leashing is definitely a bit of a noob trap. Tracking the enemy jungler doesn't just come down to a guessing game though. Like we mentioned previously, you can use wards to help you catch out the jungler much earlier, and if one of your team's wards spots the enemy jungler, it doesn't only help the player getting ganked, but of course helps everybody. By seeing where the enemy jungler is at any part of the map, you can continue to guess what their pathing will be. In situations like this, it's best to try to think like a jungler. If you ever watch crime shows, things about the FBI, or police shows on TV, they say they have to think like the murderer, they have to think like the criminal. And honestly, the jungler is very similar in that way. If you play jungle and try to learn a little bit about it, it can really help a lot. One of the quickest yet best tips I ever received when I was like silver or gold was when I was watching Bjergsen stream, and one time he told me I'm 75% HP and my opponent is 25% HP, but I'm gonna use my potion, that way I can't get ganked, or at least if the jungler comes, I have a much better opportunity to outplay it. And this is usually a neglected tip to avoid jungle ganks, but you have to use potions and biscuits, and you really might need to buy more potions too. I see a lot of people that don't buy enough, but I also see some people that buy too many. During the early game, there's nothing wrong with investing money into health pots. I know it sucks that you're spending 50 gold on them, but think about it like this. If buying a potion will let you stay in lane for one more wave, you can make 120 gold and get the XP from that wave as well. This will net you a profit of about 70 gold, but obviously League of Legends is not as black and white as this, but you get the realistic scenario that this could happen in many of your games. When thinking about whether or not you're going to be able to stay in lane, you of course have to factor in how vulnerable you are to being ganked and how vulnerable you are to even dying as well. Being low all the time, constantly trading, and never having 100% HP might be one of the biggest reasons you're always getting ganked and dying to them as well. If you pop a potion, but more importantly you wait for it to finish ticking all the way, it's going to make it a lot more likely that you can survive the gank. This might come as common sense, but I really think it's worth mentioning since we're on the topic. I know even for me personally, it really helped me. Speaking about surviving a lot longer, our next tip is to stall as long as you can. This is for two reasons. Number one, the simple reason is that if you're being ganked and you're not prepared for it, you probably aren't ready. Sure, you could have likely avoided or prevented the situation, but in those moments where it's happening and there's no getting out, you might as well make the most of it. If you're gonna die anyway, at least make your opponents work for it. Use the alcoves, use the fog of war if necessary, buy as much time as you can. If they're gonna kill you, don't make it easy. Don't just press S on your keyboard and stop. The other reason you want to learn to stall is that it's going to give your team more time to react. Maybe one of your other lanes is using teleport, or your jungler is nearby to turn the fight around, or maybe you have a Shen, or maybe you have a Senna, or maybe you have a Soraka. Run away, hide in the bushes, or run in whichever direction will take the longest for your opponents to kill you. This might mean sometimes away from your turret, or towards the river at times, and that can be okay. You need to learn to buy time, give your teammates a chance to help you, and try to turn these fights around. There are very few situations where stalling will hurt you, and most players honestly don't even think about how much you can punish them by stalling. The only situation I could really think about where it's not worth stalling is if right around Baron is going to spawn and you die and it's like the 19-minute and 40-second mark. In this specific situation, you would want to die faster so you can respawn and make it back in time to join the fight, but you already know that this is an extremely rare case that doesn't happen any game. So bottom line is, if you don't know, the best thing to do is stall. Finally, today's last tip to survive ganks is to know when you can play aggressively. You do not always have to run from every gank, especially if you've been popping off. Sometimes it's in your best interest to turn and fight. Off the top of my head, there are two scenarios where this might be the case. Number one, if you've been taking favorable trade after favorable trade, and your lane opponent or opponents will have to play aggressively to set up for a gank or bait you into fighting. If they're really low, you can of course take the bait and fight them straight up, likely trading for a 1-for-1. Not too bad, honestly. While the enemy team gets a little bit more gold out of it, you've revealed the enemy jungler's location, you've made them commit to ganking your lane, and you've used some of their time. This will slow them down, while your own jungler can usually take a cross-map objective, clear their jungle, or gank the opposite side of the map, and hopefully a gank that doesn't force them to trade kills. Based on the position of the wave, the other reason you'll want to play aggressively is that you might want to run towards your opponent's turret to avoid a gank. While this is not very common for mid laners, side laners who are dominating their lane want to move in position for the opposite direction towards the enemy jungler and often behind them. You want to move towards the turret, especially if you have minions tanking it, and if your lane opponent is too low, they can't do anything about it, since you could just turret dive them and trade 1-for-1. Instead, run into the enemy jungle and try to find another path to avoid the enemy jungler. Jump through the wall surrounding Dragon or Rift Herald, suicide to the enemy's tier 2 or tier 3 turret, or run to your mid laner as protection if they have lane priority. Finally, the last and one of the most niche things about this game, but again, if you're just so good and you're winning your lane all the time, sometimes the best thing to do is to slowly but surely secure kills on your enemy laner. And what I mean by that is you don't always have to kill them right away and blow your flash. Maybe if you leave someone on really low HP, maybe 20 or 25%, and you're really strong this game, maybe you'll bait the enemy jungler to coming top, and instead of getting a 1-for-0, maybe you'll double kill them. Anyway, that's going to cover all of our tips to survive ganks. I hope you guys found this useful, and if you did, please let us know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to check out our website as well as our YouTube channel for more informational content just like this. And until next time, good luck on Summoner's Rift.